Hey everybody, so welcome to the initial concepting and the idea finding stage. I wanted to make a little preface to the actual video by saying that in the video I will cover some specific ways to go about doing this to push yourself in a certain direction, but you should go with what feels natural to you. So some days I will, like in this small mech example that we just made, I will just go with blank piece of canvas. There's no references, there's nothing for the initial idea, and I just go for it. Start sculpting, doing things like that, right? But another day you might feel that you do want to get as much referencing beforehand as possible, and have your second monitor full of references to even get yourself started. So there's no wrong approach as long as it kind of gets you in the good flow, in a good mood, and that's all that matters, right? So with that out of the way, let's get into the main video. Hey everybody, welcome to the concepting section of the tutorial. So basically in here we will look at some ways to maybe find out good starting points for the ideas, and as you can see, I already have Pinterest open. I think some people don't like using Pinterest that much because there's a lot of very random works in varying quality, so it's kind of hard sometimes to find specific references. But to get an initial idea, to get initial feeling for something, I think this is a very awesome place because you do get these random bursts of information that can give almost like a chain reaction to further that concept in your own way. Okay, so we're not looking here to copy things from other people. We're kind of looking to sort of get yourself inspired in a way and have a starting point, and your final result might not even look anything what you started with. This is just literally to give a kick to your brain on some of the idea generation. So with that out of the way, I will show my initial board where I kind of got the idea for the Fisher guy and the mecha, and basically it didn't start as that at all. So I was going through Pinterest, just scrolling, looking at some awesome works here, and sometimes you will come across something that, like even this dog, like it has, don't even think about mechanical things per se, because any character can be made into mechanical thing. The mechanical side of things is something that I enjoy making, so that's why I tend to go that direction of making it like mechanical and robotic, because it's kind of a fun challenge. But look for character inspiration, look for the actual feeling or atmosphere. Like even this lion guy can really, like get this sort of like epic feeling of this flowing hair, and maybe there's wires that are floating in the air as the mech is kind of like staring into the distance. Like, get the ideas that are not necessarily one-to-one to what you're looking at, right? Even motorcycles, and we'll touch upon like specific type of references, but right now you should be looking for character inspiration, the idea, maybe the feeling that you're looking for. And you can see kind of my interests, right? So motorcycles, cars, characters, and of course we're getting like amalgamation of all these things. So that's what's cool about Pinterest as well. It will kind of put these things that you look up a lot, and it will kind of give you this feed on those specific things, but also vary them enough to find new exciting projects to work on. So okay, let's say I'm scrolling down and I see something like this. Okay, so this sort of character might already give me, even if I'm not investigating too much what the original artist's idea was, maybe I'm already getting ideas on the silhouette. Okay, so what I do usually is I open PureRef, and let's say, and by the way, there's a hotkey on PureRef, Control Shift A, to keep it always on top. So even if I press on my browser right now, this is always staying on top. Let's say I just drop this in here, and I can type a note, so Control N, and just type in something like, I like this silhouette. I think that's how we spell it. So yeah. So I like the silhouette, all right? So straight away, like, okay, what do I like about the silhouette? So maybe I wouldn't type it like this necessarily, but just for demonstration purposes, ask yourself, what do I like about the silhouette? Top heavy, so top heavy, small head, gives a strong feeling to the character, right? Like this is super basic, but this is what should be going kind of in the back of your mind when you're looking at these things. So if I'm inspired by this, you know, my character doesn't need to have this design and this clothing and these type of hands, but maybe I can, okay, maybe I want to make like a strong character, and I like the feeling that I'm getting from this one. So maybe that's a sort of the initial starting point that I could have. And then, you know, if I keep browsing, maybe I'm getting some sort of memories from my past that, you know, like maybe I played a game or saw a movie that's working with the feeling of this character that's already there, or maybe it's contrasting with the feeling of this character, right? This kind of heavy dude. Maybe I want to mash it with something, you know, like, okay, I have this top heavy character. How about I start thinking about the function of this robot, right? So like we have a silhouette, but maybe look at professions. What profession could have a top heavy build? So of course, like what's in my head right now is like it could be some sort of lifting kind of character, right? So if I just go to, maybe it could be entertainment, like building the biggest robots that are showing off on the stage, or with actual function, like heavy lifting robots. Okay, something, so that's already there, right? Like that works with that character. So we can, like that's super basic, but that's kind of, you want to start with basic and then slowly go towards more specific things, more maybe implementing like something from your life that you're familiar with, or you know, something that interests you personally. I could say, you know, like, okay, so I like the silhouette. What's the surfacing on this thing? What sort of paneling would I like to do on it? So maybe I can type in like, okay, if I'm familiar with motorcycles, maybe I can type in like a Hayabusa. And a Hayabusa tends to have this really like muscular, big look and kind of works with this character. So maybe this could be like a humanoid version of this motorcycle. So maybe these two references go together quite well, because this motorcycle is kind of like, actually, if you look at it, if I were just to rotate it, kind of has a feeling of this character to me on this motorcycle. So I like this mechanical design. It works with the character idea of being, for example, top heavy, muscular, heroic. Okay. So these are just ideas that you want to kind of combine and see where you can take yourself with that, right? Like my interests are in motorcycles and robots, so I'm combining the two together here. But then if I go through here, I can go, oh, these glasses are cool, and maybe they could work with the robot. So maybe he's like actually, if I drop in these glasses, what do I get? You know, if I add the glasses with this big eye, actually I kind of get like security guard. Okay, like a muscular security guard. So we're kind of working on kind of preconceptions and more obvious things. And what I do notice is it's okay to start with the obvious and then tailor it more and more as the project goes on, like I just mentioned, right? So this seems to be like the same type of character, but with different type of clothing. So this is also very interesting. Yeah, everything is possible, like combinations of things. There's so much ideas that you can come up with, and you don't want to literally take things and just like copy it over, but you want to take the essence of things. How about, like, if I look at this motorcycle, instead of that motorcycle, the color scheme is more sporty, so maybe it can be like this robot is heavy, but it's also fast, which is kind of contrasting, right? But maybe there's a situation where that makes sense. So maybe he's using a lot of energy, but he's fast and heavy. Some sort of emergency robot, maybe, for emergency, like car accidents, to lift up a car, get to the spot quickly, and then go back to the charging station. Or just the ideas, like throwing them out there and seeing if they make sense. If they don't really make sense, moving on to other things. Even if I was to take like something completely different, like this kind of character, I've never seen. Well, you don't see this often, and especially in mech form with having wings. So that could be very interesting, like another idea to have kind of character. Okay, maybe there's like an angel type of mech character. So there's a lot of possibilities. And then what's really interesting when you start going into like character relationships, so especially something like this is very interesting because I cannot press on it for some reason, but having two characters that are juxtaposed by their scale like this is usually a very cool look. So that's why I went with that in my project as well. But okay, so that's kind of the idea of using Pinterest for idea generation. Obviously, you don't have to stick to Pinterest. You can go like anywhere. You can even go outside and get ideas while you're having a coffee. Whilst observing people in real life, and even observing your friends, some specific things, and picking those things up and making them like stand out a little bit more is always really fun. And here's another advice: is when you find, let's say I want to do some sort of dog robot character, right? So if I was just type in dog in Pinterest, I could find something like this, and this doesn't really say anything, right? Like, okay, this is a dog and it's laying down and it's cute. Okay, I mean, that's awesome photo. But what I do like doing is go a little bit deeper with the references that you're doing. Like this kind of dog standing on his hind legs, it's a little bit more quirky and can have some more personality with that reference, right? So if you make it a dog robot, why don't you just put it on the back legs like this and just staring? I mean, this is a very kind of comical thing, but try to look into like something interesting that specific character would do, right? And maybe more interesting feeling. Like I like the snow behind this dog and the setting that it's like an Arctic dog. Okay, that becomes more interesting. So that robot could have some sort of fabrics wrapped around the robot to identify that it's in more like extreme environment rather than just just a regular dog sitting in a park. But yeah, that's the sort of thinking you want to be doing. Like, look at this. So, like you can get inspiration for some really weird designs from this, and you can always reference them back. And I'm pretty sure I've seen something like this, like in Bloodborne, right, with the dog having like weird legs. I wouldn't be surprised if that would have been inspired by like references like this. Like, I don't know if this is even real, but if you look up like a dog Bloodborne, let's see if I can find something that's kind of similar. So specific references like this can be maybe a little bit tricky on Pinterest. So if I just go on Google, let's see, dog Bloodborne, yeah, you can see those kind of more, let's see, exaggerated, yeah, more exaggerated forms and shapes. So yeah, try to look in deeper into things to find interesting references, right? Like dogs like these, I'm sure were inspiration for like some of the Bloodborne things, right? They weren't based just on normal, regular dogs. Okay, so let me show real quick my initial reference board for this project that I worked on for this tutorial. So here it is, and it's really simple. As you can see, I lined out two things. I was going through, I think it was Pinterest. I was scrolling through, and this really caught my eye. And you can see a little bit of this in my final project, but also, if I didn't point it out that this was like in any way inspiring my final project, you wouldn't know, right? Because it pretty much has nothing to do with it. But what I did notice is like this sitting position of the legs being really on the sides of the body and the character looking down. That straight away gave me some sort of feeling of like the character being in some calm state, or I think in this case this character is in some sort of like a hunting state, or waiting on something to show up and like attack it. But in my case, if I just crop this like this and get rid of those long arms, to me it's like a character just like hanging on maybe some cliffside like I did in my model. And that's where I got this idea from. So I actually got it from here. And then those long arms actually reminded me of me playing Sekiro, and these apes with really long legs. So I also put them into my reference board. And then the sitting idea of a robot, I was like, okay, let's get, it's like almost feels like a frog sitting. So I Googled sitting frog and kind of got this. So that was also sort of, I don't know, interesting reference to have in there. And this crab also chilling on a cliffside. And then for the composition, so the composition is like more like what's happening on the surfaces and within the character textures and the design. So because I recently watched Avatar 2, I remember these really cool crab creatures, and I did put this in my reference board as like, okay, I like the text that's here, and those general things you can definitely take inspiration from. It's not really, it's kind of like a classical mechanical design that you're being inspired by. Like I'm not copying the shape, the design, or like the actual hull of this thing, right? I'm just going with some of the ideas that are there. Like I like the actual composition between the dark parts and this main body green, this like sea green body paint, and then it's nicely contrasted by this like really calm dark colors, and there's a pop of sort of accents here and there with the text and different materials. And then I saw some more of the similar type of composition, so I tried to reinforce what I saw here with some other works. And then my passion is motorcycles, so I put motorcycle reference here as well. And you can see these mechanical designs kind of share really similar compositions, right? Now you can play around with the ratios here. So like you can see this has more like greens, actually it has less green panels than this one has red panels, right? Like the red really is a huge focal point. I mean, the green here is also a huge focal point, but it tends to just have different ratios of these colors. Like especially here, it's actually mostly dark, and then it gets more and more red. So this is something you can play around with, these like percentages of where you want to put the panels, where you want to put the armor plates. But this could be done for later on, right? First of all, worry about this, the silhouette, the character feeling, and actually the frog itself here wasn't mostly for the fact that it's sitting down, but actually those round shapes is something that I did end up implementing into my final work. So I think that's why I actually chose this image. But yeah, so things like that. And the final board that I have for this project is like way more full of other references like dioramas. So at some point I realized it's going to become a diorama. So I basically looked up some, dioramas that people made like in real life. So you're referencing real life, which is always awesome. And I think this was a big inspiration. Oh, like I saw, okay, I actually wanted to add some water to my to the model, so I got this idea from here. And you can see this has nothing to do with mechanical design or anything like that, but I thought, yeah, this could work with my scene really well. So I wanted to kind of get a little bit of that feeling into my piece of work as well. So yeah, that's about it for kind of coming up with the ideas and the general thinking behind it. Of course, we'll be touching up on that throughout the entire tutorial as well. So, but this was just like a little extra video in case you were wondering how the initial tutorial was even started and where the idea began. And basically, this image. I like the feeling. It's super simple image, like something, you would see sometimes and not even bat an eye. But that evening, it really caught my eye. So, yeah. And also, I wanted to mention like what I was saying about the past experiences that you had and things like that influencing your art. It will come subconsciously, but also for this piece, I remembered, like, I at some point really had this strong memory of me playing video games with my friend, for example, playing Raft or like playing Minecraft back in the day, where I don't know if, yeah, where we would go like fishing and things like that, right? And that memory there was like, it came to me as I was working on that piece, and I decided I need to put like a fisherman guy on top of this mech. So it's not just a mech staring at the fish, but it's like actually someone having a relationship in the scene. Like there's a character relationship happening in the scene of fishing in that case. And that came from just somewhere subconsciously, that memory coming back up of me like going fishing in a video game, right? So it can be really like random things that will add up to the final project, and it will be really your own because you're kind of just going off the life experiences that you had. And the Pinterest part is really just kind of jetting the memory of those things being there in your past. There's a reason why you like certain images, right? There's a reason why you would click on a certain image and get an idea from that one. Is because something happened in your past that makes you happy to kind of work towards that direction. And for personal project, that's where you should go with, because other people can really tell that it was something that you enjoyed making and it came from the right place, your work. So yeah, that's about it. I can talk about this for hours, but I need to cut it off somewhere. So yeah, we'll be touching more on this during the actual tutorial. So yeah, see you in the main tutorial.